The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent after the final vote. Light from 1,000 hovering panels reflected off smooth metal walls, but no one spoke. The decision had been made. It was final. Humanity was to be condemned. From a small blue world on the edge of Council space, humans would be cut off from trade routes, shared technology, and diplomatic channels. Their colonies would be marked as restricted zones. No Council ship would offer aid. No Council voice would speak on their behalf. The older species believed this was mercy on Earth. The image of the Council chamber appeared on screens large and small, from crowded streets to quiet homes. The translated verdict scrolled in calm, formal language, stripped of emotion. Admiral Kung Juan stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, his hands resting behind his back. He did not move as the final words appeared. By unanimous decision, humanity is found in violation of interstellar conduct. Round him, officers and analysts watched in stunned silence. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. A few looked lost. Kong's face showed none of it. His eyes stayed on the screen, steady and sharp. He had known this was coming. The Council had been uneasy with humans from the moment they arrived among the stars. Too fast, too curious. Too willing to push limits, the Council did not like species it could not easily predict. When the broadcast ended, the room remained quiet. Finally, a junior officer broke the silence. "Sir, what are our orders?" Kong did not answer right away. He turned slowly and looked at the people in the room. Men and women from Earth, Mars, Luna, and the outer colonies. Different accents, different backgrounds. "One species, our orders," he said calmly, "are to observe, to think, and to prepare." No dramatic speech, just truth. Across the planet, reactions varied. In some cities, people protested in the streets. In others, there was quiet fear. On distant colonies, settlers watched the news with clenched fists, knowing help would not come if trouble followed. In a small office beneath the United Earth Assembly, Li Hana sat alone at her desk. Data screens floated around her, filled with trade numbers, supply routes, and Council policy records. She was a civilian analyst, not a soldier. But her work mattered just as much. She replayed the Council vote again and again, slowing it down, reading between the lines. The words were clean, but the reasons behind them were not. "They're afraid." She whispered to herself. Humanity had followed every rule it was given. The problem was that humans kept improving. They learned faster than expected. They adapted alien technology in ways the original creators never had. They questioned limits that other species accepted without thought. Fear had led to this vote, not justice. Hannah began marking files, tagging old Council decisions involving other young species. Patterns emerged quickly. Every time a new race advanced too fast, pressure followed. Isolation, isolation, control. Humanity was not special. Humanity was just the next target. Hours later, Admiral Kung stood before the United Earth Assembly. Representatives filled the chamber, their faces tense. The vote had shaken every system under human control. Kung spoke plainly. "The Council believes isolation will weaken us," he said. "They believe we depend on them to survive." Murmur spread through the room. "They are wrong." He did not promise revenge. He did not call for war. Instead, he listed facts. Earth still had its fleets, its shipyards, its people. Human colonies were distant, but connected. "We were explorers before we met the Council," Kong said. "We will endure without them." Some representatives argued for submission. Others demanded immediate retaliation. Kong listened to all of them. Then he made a single request. "Give us time." In the weeks that followed, Council enforcement ships appeared near human borders. They did not attack. They only watched. The message was clear. Humanity was being tested. Trade lanes once open now went dark. Human merchants were turned away from neutral ports under Council pressure. Some alien corporations canceled contracts overnight. On the surface, it looked like collapse. In reality, something else was happening. In hidden shipyards, Old designs were pulled from archives. Engineers studied human-built systems that had been ignored in favor of alien models. Supply chains were rerouted. Civilian industries were quietly converted to support space production. Park Doyon, a fleet architect with a calm voice and tired eyes, stared at a half-built hole inside a sealed dock. The ship did not look impressive. It lacked the smooth curves favored by council standards. Its shape was sharp, functional, almost ugly. "It doesn't need to impress anyone," he said to his team. "It just needs to work." His engineers nodded. They had been told the same thing again and again. No council approval. No shared blueprints. Everything had to be human-made. That challenge did not frighten them. It excited them. On a neutral world near council space, Choi Mira watched human news feeds in secret. Officially, she was a cultural observer, assigned to monitor reactions to the sanctions. Unofficially, she was starting to doubt everything she had been taught. The council expected riots, economic collapse, desperate messages, begging for mercy. Instead, Mira saw calm broadcasts. Local leaders speaking about unity, engineers explaining new projects, ordinary people volunteering for colony support programs. "They should be panicking," she muttered. But humans were not panicking back on Earth. Lee Hanna finished her report and sent it directly to Admiral Kung. It outlined the Council's long history of controlling younger species through isolation. At the end, she added a simple conclusion: "They believe we will break." Kang read the report in silence. Then he forwarded it to a small, secure group. "Prepare Phase 1. The message did not include details. It did not need to. Weeks turned into months. Council ships remained at a distance, growing bored. No protests. No threats. No open defiance. Humanity appeared quiet. That silence was mistaken for weakness. In truth, it was focus. Far from Council eyes, unmanned probes tested human-made engines. New alloys were forged without alien input. Old human physics theories, once dismissed, were revisited and refined. Every setback was studied. Every failure was learned from. On a quiet night, Admiral Kang stood alone in the observation deck, Earth rotating slowly beneath him. He thought of humanity's past. Wars survived. Plagues endured. A home planet nearly ruined, then healed. The Council believed humanity needed permission to exist among the stars. They were wrong. The first phase was almost complete, and the galaxy, still watching in silence, had no idea what was coming. The Council ships continued to watch from a distance. But weeks passed with no change. No human protests reached the stars. No desperate signals were sent. The silence confused many observers. Inside human space, life did not stop. It changed. Trade halls that once handled alien goods were emptied, then reopened for internal use. Old factories were cleaned and restarted. People learned to live without products they once relied on. It was not easy, but it was possible. Admiral Kang Gyeowan spent most of his days moving between command centers. He listened more than he spoke. Every report told the same story. Shortages existed, but systems were holding. Morale was strained, but steady. Humanity was bending, not breaking. In one of Earth's deep research zones, Park Doyen walked through a long corridor lined with glass walls. Behind them, engineers worked in silence. Some were young, others near retirement. All of them shared the same focus. Dujin stopped in front of a large display showing a ship frame. "This design is inefficient," one engineer said quietly. Dujin nodded. "By Council standards," he tapped the screen, bringing up human performance models. "But this is not a Council ship. This is ours." The engineers exchanged looks. They understood what that meant. Council ships valued elegance, shared systems, and predictable responses. Human ships would value redundancy, endurance, and adaptability. If one system failed, another would take over. If a rule did not work, humans would rewrite it. Far away, on a neutral trade station, Choi Myra watched human cargo vessels dock without alien escorts. Their hulls looked rough compared to Council ships. Their engines burned hotter. Their flight paths were less clean, but they arrived on time. Every time Mira sent her observations back to the Council, the replies were short and dismissive. Human efficiency is temporary. Isolation will weaken them. She stared at the messages and felt a growing unease. The Council had made similar claims before about other species. Most of those species no longer existed as independent powers. Humans, however, were different. On Earth, Lee Hanna worked long hours in a dim room filled with data screens. She had expanded her analysis beyond Council records. She now studied human history, periods of isolation, economic collapse, global conflict. Every time humanity faced pressure, it adapted in ways that surprised even itself. Hanna compiled case after case, linking them to current patterns. She noticed how communities reorganized, how technology shifted under stress, how culture hardened without losing compassion. "They don't understand us," she said softly. She sent another report to Admiral Kong, this one less technical. Humans do their best work when they have no other choice, beyond Earth. Human colonies adjusted their defenses. Patrol routes changed. Civilian ships trained in emergency maneuvers. No one announced these changes publicly. The Council was watching. There was no need to provoke. At a distant asteroid settlement, Captain Yoon Tae-sung oversaw training exercises with a small security fleet. His ships were old models, once considered outdated. Now they were being rebuilt. New armor layers were added. Weapons were simplified but strengthened. Crews trained for long missions without outside support. "We won't be faster than them," Tae-sung told his officers. "We won't be prettier." He looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "But we will last longer." Months passed. Council enforcement ships began to rotate out. Their crews grew bored. Humans were not reacting the way they were supposed to. Some Council members suggested tightening restrictions. Others argued that patience would be enough. Fear remained unspoken, at present. One day a Council probe drifted too close to a human testing zone. It was meant to observe. Nothing more, it never returned. The official human statement was brief. Unauthorized entry into restricted space resulted in an accident. No apology followed. Choi Mira read the report several times. An accident. The words were neutral, but the meaning was clear. Humanity was setting boundaries. Inside the United Earth Assembly, debates grew louder. Some leaders demanded open defiance. Others urged restraint. Admiral Kang remained calm. "We are not ready to speak loudly yet," he said, "but we are ready to stand." Behind closed doors, Phase 1 expanded. Human shipyards increased output. New training programs prepared crews for independent operations. Artificial intelligence systems were redesigned to work without Council data libraries. Mistakes happened. Ships failed. People were injured, but progress continued. Lee Hanna visited a manufacturing district once known for producing alien components. Now it built human engines. She spoke with workers during breaks. "They cut us off," one said. "So we learned," another smiled. "Turns out we were depending on them too much." Hanna recorded their words and added them to her growing archive. Humanity was changing from the inside out. On a distant Council world, discussions grew tense. Reports from human space no longer showed decline. Production numbers rose. Border incidents remained controlled. Why aren't they collapsing? One delegate asked. No one answered. Choi Mira stood alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. She thought about the Council's belief in order, control, and slow progress. Humans did not believe in slow progress. They believed in survival. A secure message reached her terminal. It was not from the Council, it was human. The message contained no threat. Only a request. Observe. Understand. Mira did not reply. But she did not report the message either. Back on Earth, Admiral Kang reviewed the latest fleet readiness data. Human forces were still outmatched in size, but not in spirit, not in preparation. He looked at a small note, pinned beside his console. A quote from an early human. Explorer, we move forward because staying still means dying. Council believed humanity would wait. Humanity was moving slowly, carefully, and with purpose. The second phase was taking shape. The galaxy still watched, and still. It did not understand. The first real sign of change appeared far from Earth. Near the outer edge of human-controlled space, a small human ship entered a region once dominated by Council patrols. It did not ask for permission. It did not broadcast threats. It simply passed through. Council sensors detected the vessel immediately. Its engine signature was unfamiliar, rough, and unstable by Council standards. Analysts expected it to turn back when warning signals were sent. It did not. The ship adjusted its course, avoided patrol routes, and vanished into deep space. Reports of the incident reached the Galactic Council within hours. The response was slow and uncertain. Some members dismissed it as a test flight. Others argued it was a violation that required punishment. No agreement was reached. Inside human space, the mission was logged as a success. Admiral Kung Juan listened to the debrief without visible reaction. The ship had gathered data, tested detection systems, and returned safely. It proved what human engineers had hoped. They could move without being seen. Do not repeat the route, Kang ordered. Change patterns. Stay unpredictable. Human strategy was simple. Never let the enemy feel comfortable. On a distant colony world, Lihanna walked through a settlement built under a red sky. Years earlier, this colony relied on alien machines to survive. Now, human-built systems kept the air clean and the soil fertile. They were less efficient. They required more maintenance. But they belonged to humanity. Hannah spoke with local leaders and recorded their experiences. Life was harder, but pride had returned. We were guests before, one settler said. Now this place feels like ours. Hannah understood what that meant. Dependence had been replaced by ownership. Across council space, rumors spread. Human ships were appearing briefly near trade lanes. Probes vanished. Border markers were ignored. Still, there were no attacks. That made the council nervous. Choi Mira attended a closed council briefing for observers. Senior delegates spoke with controlled voices, but tension filled the chamber. Human activity is increasing, one said, but they avoid direct conflict. They are testing us, another replied. Mira listened quietly. She noticed what they did not say. They no longer spoke of humans as weak. After the meeting, Mira returned to her quarters and reviewed human media again. She expected propaganda or military speeches. Instead, she saw engineers explaining new power systems, teachers speaking about self-reliance, children studying star maps. No hatred, no fear, just preparation. On Earth, Park Doyon stood inside a massive hangar as a new ship powered up for the first time. Its engines roared unevenly, shaking the floor. Too loud, an engineer said. Doyen smiled faintly. Loud means alive. The ship was not meant to fight Council fleets head-on. It was designed for endurance, long missions, and rapid change. Human doctrine was shifting. Avoid weakness. Exploit flexibility, Captain. Yoon Taesung received new orders while stationed near a mining outpost. His fleet would escort civilian convoys through zones once protected by Council forces. They want us to see what happens, one officer said. Taesung nodded. So do I. The first convoy passed without trouble. The second was scanned by a Council drone but left alone. The third was not so lucky. A small Council-lined patrol approached and demanded the convoy turn back. The message was firm, but not hostile. Taesung responded calmly. This route is within human territory, the patrol insisted. Taesung waited, his ships adjusted formation. Weapons powered but not aimed. Defensive systems activated quietly. Minutes passed. Finally, patrol withdrew. No shots were fired. The convoy continued. Word of the encounter spread quickly. Humans had not attacked, but they had not obeyed either. The council debated the incident for days. Some members argued that enforcement actions should increase. Others warned that escalation could lead to open conflict. Fear crept into the discussions. They did not know how far humanity was willing to go. Lehanna returned. Terethan presented her findings to a small strategy group. She spoke about culture, history, and behavior. Pressure changes us, she said, but it also unites us. One official asked, "Are we becoming more dangerous?" Hannah shook her head. "We are becoming more ourselves in a hidden facility." New communication arrays came online. They used human encryption, human logic, and human error tolerance. Council monitoring systems struggled to understand them. That was intentional, Choi. Mira received another human message. This one contained data, no words. She studied it carefully. It showed council ship movements, response times, and blind spots. They were sharing intelligence with her. Why? She whispered. She realized the answer slowly. They trusted her. Mira felt something shift inside her. Loyalty, once clear, now felt uncertain. On the council's central world, a heated argument broke out during a private session. "They are ignoring our authority," one delegate said. "They are not attacking," another replied. Yet, the room fell quiet. That single word carried weight. On Earth, Admiral Kang watched reports stream across his console. Human forces were still inferior in number. But confidence was growing. He knew this phase was dangerous. Silence could break at any moment. Still, it had to be done. A message arrived from Park. "Duyan, first long-range test successful." Kong allowed himself a rare smile. Humanity was no longer just surviving it. Was learning how to move freely, far from council eyes. A group of unmanned human vessels gathered in deep space. Their purpose was simple: to prove that humanity could reach anywhere it chose. Back on the neutral station, Choi Mira made a decision she could not undo. She encrypted her private records and prepared a secure channel. Not to the council, to Earth. She did not know what the future held. But she knew one thing. The council had misjudged humanity, and that mistake was growing larger with every passing day. Tension finally broke near a small human outpost at the edge of contested space. The station was old, built before humanity ever met the council. Its hull was patched and scarred, but it still worked. Council-aligned forces arrived without warning. 3 patrol ships emerged from faster-than-light travel and moved into position around the outpost. Their weapons stayed cold, but their intent was clear. They demanded inspection rights, claiming possible violations of council law. The outpost commander refused. The council ships advanced. A quiet alert spread through human space. Captain Yoon Taeson received the message while overseeing repairs on his flagship. He read it once, then looked up at his crew. "We're moving," he said. No cheers followed. No fear either. The crew took their stations with practiced calm. The human fleet arrived hours later, smaller in number, rough in appearance, but ready. Tae-sung opened a channel. "This station is under human protection," he said. "Withdraw." The council patrol leader replied with stiff authority. "You are violating council mandate." Tae-sung did not argue. His ship spread out, forming a loose defensive arc around the station. Power levels rose. Targeting systems activated but did not lock. Minutes passed. The council ships moved closer. Then, without warning, one of them fired. The shot was not meant to destroy. It struck the station's outer hull, damaging a docking ring. That single act changed everything. Tae-sung reacted instantly. "Disabled only," he ordered. Human weapons fired in sharp, controlled bursts. They targeted engines, sensors, and power relays. No random fire. No wasted shots. Within moments, one council ship lost, thrust, and drifted. Another lost its weapons grid. The third attempted to retreat. It did not escape. Human ships surrounded it, forcing it to shut down, The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. No, Council ship was destroyed. No human ship was lost. Inside the outpost, damaged but alive. Crews stared in disbelief. Humanity had stood its ground. Across Council space, alarms spread. Reports flooded communication channels. A Council patrol had been defeated. Not annihilated. Defeated, that distinction mattered. On Earth, Admiral Kong Juan watched the battle replay in silence. He studied every movement, every decision. They showed restraint, he said finally. Lihana nodded. And confidence. The official human statement followed soon after. An armed incursion into human territory was repelled. All hostile vessels were disabled. Survivors are safe. No threats, no apologies. The Galactic Council reacted with shock. Emergency sessions were called. Voices rose. Accusations flew. How could a patrol fail? They used Council weapons against us. They did not follow engagement rules. Choi Myra listened from the observers section. She watched fear take shape in ways she had never seen before. The Council had lost control of the situation. Medical ships were sent to retrieve the disabled patrol crews. When they returned, their stories spread quickly. Human ships did not pursue fleeing vessels. Human crews rescued injured. Council sailors. Human commanders spoke calmly, without insults or threats that frightened the Council more than brutality ever could. On the damaged outpost, Captain Taesung walked through repair crews and spoke with station staff. You held long enough, he told them. One technician asked quietly, Is this war? Taesung shook his head. Not if they learn. Back on Earth, public reaction was intense. Some celebrated. Others worried. Admiral Kang addressed the population. We did not seek this fight, he said, but we will not step aside when pushed. His words were calm but firm. Human shipyards went into full production mode, not to prepare for conquest, but for defense. Park Doyon oversaw updates to ship designs based on the battle data. Council weapons were precise but predictable. Human systems proved flexible. We can improve this, he said, marking changes. Lihana studied the Council's response patterns. She noticed hesitation. They are unsure now, she told Kong. They expected fear. Instead, they found discipline. Choi Mira made her choice. She sent a full report to Earth. Including Council internal debates and rising divisions, her message ended with a single line. They are afraid of what you represent. The Council issued a formal protest, accusing humanity of aggression. Human diplomats replied with evidence, timestamps, and battle records. The truth was clear. The Council had fired first. Neutral systems began to question Council authority. If a young species could defend itself with restraint, perhaps the Council was not as fair as it claimed. Weeks passed. No further attacks came. Council patrols kept their distance. Human space grew quieter. But not relaxed, Admiral Kong knew. This was a turning point. Humanity had crossed an invisible line. It was no longer ignored. It was no longer dismissed. It was now watched with caution, far from Earth. Captain Taesung stood on his bridge. Staring at the stars, he knew peace was still possible. But it would only come if humanity proved it. Could not be bullied. The galaxy had seen humanity defend itself, and it would never see humans the same way again. The battle near the human outpost changed the balance of the galaxy. It did not start a war, but it ended an illusion. For centuries, the Galactic Council believed its authority was absolute. Young species obeyed or faded away. Borders were decided in quiet chambers, far from those who lived with the results. Humanity had disrupted that pattern. Inside the Council's central hall, delegates gathered again. This time, the room was loud. Voices overlapped. Accusations replaced calm debate. They attacked a Council patrol. One delegate shouted, "They defended their territory." Another replied, "They humiliated us. They spared your crews." The argument went in circles. Choi Myra watched from above, her expression controlled. She had never seen the Council so divided. Fear had made them emotional, and emotion made them careless. Several older species demanded full military action. They argued that humanity's survival depended on fear, and that fear must be restored. Others disagreed. If we escalate, we risk defeat, one cautious delegate said. They adapt too quickly. That word echoed in the chamber. Adapt on Earth. Admiral Kung Guan met with civilian leaders and military planners. The mood was serious but steady. We expected this, Kong said. Division means pressure. Pressure means mistakes. Aunt Lihana presented new information. Council trade networks were straining. Neutral systems were delaying compliance with sanctions. Some were quietly opening channels with human merchants. The Council's image is cracking, she said. Public opinion across neutral space began to shift. News of the battle spread, along with accounts from rescued Council crews. Stories of human restraint reached places Council broadcasts. Not fully control. Humanity was no longer seen as reckless. It was seen as disciplined in shipyards across human space. Production continued. Not faster than before, but smarter. Park Do-yan walked among crews, listening to feedback. We learned something important, an engineer said. They rely on us following rules. Do-yan nodded. Then we write our own. New ships were designed to operate in small groups, each capable of independent action. If one failed, the others adapted. Human thinking shaped every system. Captain Yun Tae-sung was ordered to remain near the contested border. His fleet conducted patrols, but avoided provocation. Council ships stayed far away. The space between them felt heavy. During one patrol, Tae-sung's sensors picked up a civilian distress signal from a neutral transport ship. Council patrols were nearby, but not responding. Tae-sung did not hesitate. Human ships moved in, repaired the damaged vessel, and escorted it to safety. The rescued crew broadcast their gratitude across open channels. That single act did more damage to the Council's authority than any weapon. On the Council's home world, emergency committees formed. Trade representatives warned of losses. Security advisors warned of overextension. Some delegates began to question the original vote against humanity. Perhaps we moved too quickly, one said quietly. That sentence would have been unthinkable months. Earlier, Choi Mira sent another message to Earth, more detailed than before. It outlined faction splits, power struggles, and growing doubt. They cannot agree, she wrote. Time favors you. Admiral Kung read the message and closed his eyes for a moment. He knew time could also bring danger. We must stay controlled, he said to his staff. One mistake could unite them again. On Earth, public discussion grew intense, but thoughtful. Media outlets debated humanity's future. Should they push harder? Should they seek peace? There was no single answer. Lee Hanna appeared on a public broadcast, speaking not as an official, but as a citizen. We do not need to prove we are strong, she said. We already have. Now we must prove we are wise. Her words spread quickly. In Council space, smaller species watched carefully. Some had suffered under Council decisions in the past. Humanity's resistance stirred old memories. Quiet messages reached human. Diplomats. Questions. Curiosity. Hope. Humanity did not answer loudly. It listened. Park Do-yan finalized a project that had once seemed impossible. A deep-range exploration vessel built without any alien technology. It was not a weapon. It was a statement. Humanity could stand alone. The Council attempted one last show of authority. A formal warning was issued, demanding that humanity submit to renewed oversight. The response from Earth was brief. No. That single word traveled faster than any fleet. Inside the Council chamber, silence followed the message. Not the calm silence of confidence, the silence of realization. They could no longer command humanity. They could only react. Choi Mira watched the delegates leave the chamber, their postures heavy. For the first time, she felt no loyalty to the Council. She felt respect for humanity. On Earth, Admiral Kang stood once more before the planet's image. Turning slowly beneath him, Humanity had not conquered it, had not begged it, had simply refused to disappear. The council was fracturing, and the future was opening. The galaxy waited. After the council fractured and its authority weakened, no one knew what humanity would do next. Some expected a declaration of war. Others feared a sudden strike meant to finish what had begun. Humanity did neither. Instead, Earth prepared to speak. Admiral Kang Juan stood in a quiet briefing room surrounded by a small group of advisors. No banners. No dramatic displays. Only screens filled with star maps and communication links. "We will not threaten," Kang said. "We will explain." Some questioned the choice. "They may see it as weakness," one officer warned. Kang shook his head. "They already know we are strong. Now they must know why we act." Across human space, communication arrays powered up. Signals were aligned and tested again and again. The broadcast would reach Council worlds' neutral systems, even distant colonies that rarely heard unified messages. Lee Hanna reviewed the final draft of the address. The words were simple, honest, carefully chosen. "This is not a speech of victory," she said. "It's a line in the sand." Park Doyon watched from a shipyard orbiting Earth. Behind him, new vessels floated in silence, their hulls unfinished but promising. "We built all this," he said quietly. Without them, nearby, Captain Yoon Tae-sung prepared his fleet for a different kind of readiness. Not battle stations visibility. Human ships moved into clear view along major routes, not blocking traffic. Not threatening. President Choi Mira waited in her quarters on the Council's central world. She knew the broadcast was coming. Word had spread through unofficial channels. The Council attempted to block it. They failed. Human encryption slipped through filters and restrictions with calm precision. Screens across the galaxy flickered, then stabilized. Admiral Kang appeared. He wore a simple uniform. No medals were visible. His voice was steady. "This message is from humanity," he said. "To the Council and to every species listening." Council chambers fell silent. Neutral stations paused their traffic feeds. Even distant outposts turned their attention inward. "We were judged," Kang continued. "Condemned without a chance to speak." Images appeared beside him. Council votes. Sanction orders. Patrol movements. "We did not respond with anger," Kang said. "We responded by standing." He spoke of humanity's past, of surviving disasters, of rebuilding after collapse, of learning from mistakes. "We do not seek control," he said. "We seek respect." The message was not long, but it was clear. Humanity will defend itself. Humanity will not accept silence. And humanity is willing to work with those who choose fairness over fear. And the signal ended. No demands followed. No ultimatums. The galaxy reacted in waves. On Council worlds, panic spread through leadership circles. Some delegates called the message propaganda. Others worried about how many species were listening. In neutral systems, reactions were different. Merchants discussed new routes. Leaders questioned old alliances. Citizens debated openly. For the first time, many heard humanity speak without distortion. Choi Mira felt her breath catch as the message ended. She realized the Council had lost something important. Control of the story? She left her quarters and walked through the long halls of the Council complex. Groups of delegates argued in low voices. Security moved nervously. The Council was no longer united. On Earth, the reaction was quiet pride. No celebrations filled the streets. No chants. Humanity had said what it needed to say. Lee Hanna watched messages arrive from across the stars. Questions, requests, careful offers of contact. "They're listening," she said. Admiral Kang nodded. "Now we listen back." Small diplomatic teams were prepared, not grand embassies. Simple envoys. Choi Mira made her final choice. She entered a secure chamber and transmitted her resignation from the Council Observer Program. It was brief and official. Then she sent a second message to Earth. "I will speak for understanding," she wrote, "if you will have me." The reply came hours later. "You are welcome." The Council attempted to regain control by calling an emergency summit. Attendance was thin. Several species declined. Some openly cited humanity's message. As reason-fear shifted direction, instead of fearing humanity, many now feared the Council's rigidity. Captain Yoon Tae-sung escorted the first joint civilian convoy through contested space. Ships from 3 different species traveled together. No. Council patrol challenged them. Park Do-yoon watched the launch of the first deep-range human exploration vessel. It carried no weapons beyond basic defense. Its mission was discovery. "Let them see this," he said. On the Council's central world, Choi Mira stood before a small human delegation. She spoke carefully, choosing every word. "They believe you are a threat," she said, "because you changed the balance." Admiral Kang replied calmly. "Balance is not broken by standing up," he said. "It is broken by pushing others down."
Ow.
Days turned into weeks. The galaxy adjusted. Trade slowly resumed through new agreements. Council sanctions weakened as enforcement failed. Humanity did not rush. It allowed time to work in quiet moments. Lee Hanna reflected on the path humanity had taken. Retaliation had not come through destruction, it came through presence, choice, voice. The Council was no longer the only power that defined order. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had heard. Peace did not arrive as a single moment. It arrived as a series of small changes that slowly became impossible to ignore. After the Council lifted the sanctions, many expected humanity to rush forward, to expand quickly and claim influence while it could. Instead, human space grew careful and steady. Admiral Kong Juan remained in his post longer than planned. He believed that the first years after recognition would decide everything that followed. Too much pressure could break trust. Too little could invite new threats. "We must be visible," he told his staff, "but never careless." Human fleets adjusted their posture. Patrols became predictable and transparent. Flight paths were shared openly with nearby systems. Every movement was meant to show stability, not dominance. Some council members were uneasy. They had expected pride or revenge. They saw discipline instead. Lee Hanna worked with mixed teams for the first time. Humans and non-humans sat at the same tables, sharing data and history. Progress was slow. Old wounds did not heal quickly. During one meeting, a delegate from a smaller species spoke quietly. "We were isolated once," they said. "No one spoke for us." Hannah answered honestly. "Neither were we." That shared understanding became the foundation of new agreements. On the edge of known space, a human exploration vessel entered a system that had been marked as unstable by the Council long ago. Previous expeditions avoided it. Humans did not. The system held ruins, signs of an old civilization that had vanished centuries earlier. Data was gathered, preserved, and shared freely. Humanity did not claim the discovery. It invited others to study it. That act changed many minds. Park Do-yoon oversaw construction of a new class of ships. They were not warships. They were long-range support vessels, designed to aid colonies during disasters. "These will save more lives than any weapon," he said. Captain Yoon Tae-sung, now an instructor, watched new officers train. He noticed something different in them. They were confident, but not eager for conflict. "You don't fight to prove strength," he told them. "You fight to protect choice." Those words spread through the fleet. Choi Myra became a familiar presence in diplomatic circles. Some still distrusted her. Others respected her honesty. "The Council must change," she said during one session, "or it will be replaced by something better." The room had gone silent. No one argued. Not all reactions were positive. On a distant border, a former Council-aligned faction attempted to test human resolve. They blocked a trade route and demanded payment. Human response was swift and measured. A fleet arrived, disabled the blockade without destruction, and reopened the route. Supplies were delivered to nearby worlds, including those aligned with the aggressors. The message was clear. Humanity would not tolerate coercion, but it would not punish civilians for political games. News of the incident spread quickly. Once again, restraint spoke louder than force. On Earth, people adjusted to a new identity. Humanity was no longer the outsider. It was no longer the underdog that brought its own challenges. Some feared losing what made humans resilient. Others feared becoming what the Council once was. Admiral Kang addressed these concerns privately. Power Test character said, "We must remember who we were when no one listened." Lyanna began compiling a historical record of the isolation years. Not to inspire anger, to prevent forgetting. Years passed. Children on human colonies grew up seeing ships from many species pass overhead. Trade, once restricted, became routine. The Council still met. It still argued, but it no longer decided the fate of entire species alone. That change could be traced back to one moment, when humanity chose to stand instead of bow. On a quiet evening, Admiral Kang stood on a balcony overlooking Earth. His time in command was nearing its end. Choi, Mira joined him. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. Kang looked at the stars. "Nothing lasts forever," he said. "But this will last long enough to matter." Humanity had not reshaped the galaxy by force. It had reshaped it by refusing to accept silence. And in doing so, it left something behind that could not be undone. Choice change did not arrive with celebration. It arrived with routine. Months passed after the Council lost its central power. No single force replaced it. Instead, the galaxy adjusted in small, careful steps. Humanity became part of daily life beyond its borders. Human ships traveled trade lanes that were once closed. Human voices appeared in meetings where they had once been forbidden. Human systems became places of transit rather than targets. Admiral Kang Juan no longer stood at the center of every decision. That, to him, meant success. He remained on Earth, serving as an advisor rather than a commander. Younger officers now carried responsibility. He watched them closely, offering guidance only when asked. They must learn to choose, he told Lyanna, not follow. Hannah understood. She spent her days working with records and agreements, shaping a framework that did not depend on fear or force. It was slow work, but it lasted. Across several neutral systems, shared councils formed. They were small, informal, and focused on clear goals: trade safety, disaster response, communication standards. No species held permanent authority. Humans were invited. They did not insist. Park Doyon traveled often now. He visited construction sites and research stations where mixed teams worked together. Humans brought designs. Others brought materials and ideas. These stations belong to everyone, he reminded them. That's why they work. Some species were cautious. Memories of the old council still lingered. Captain Yoon. Tasson encountered that caution during a patrol mission near a former council border. A local defense fleet refused initial contact. They fear control, one officer said. Taesung opened a channel anyway. We're passing through, he said. We'll share our route and leave on schedule. They did. The local fleet did not interfere. Trust grew not from promises, but from predictability. Choi Mira continued to travel between systems. Her role had changed. She was no longer a negotiator between powers. She was a listener in one system. Representatives from a minor species spoke openly for the first time. We survived because no one noticed us, they said. Now we want to be seen but not ruled. Myra nodded. Then speak. Others are listening now. News networks slowly shifted tone. Stories of conflict gave way to reports of cooperation. Not dramatic, normal. On Earth, public debate remained active. Some questioned whether humanity should step back entirely. Others warned against retreat. Lyanna addressed a public forum. We are not leaders by right, she said. Only by choice. and choice can change. That message resonated. Years earlier, humanity had been isolated and silent now. Silence meant something else. It meant peace. Not all threats vanished. On the far edge of known space, signals appeared from an uncharted region. Unknown vessels. No clear intent. Reports reached Earth within hours. Admiral Kang was consulted. "We observed," he advised. "We don't assume." Mixed fleet was assembled. Human ships traveled alongside others. No single banner led. Captain Tazen commanded navigation. His orders were clear. Hold position. Share data. Do not provoke. The unknown vessels never crossed into populated space. After weeks of quiet contact, they withdrew. The galaxy exhaled. That moment mattered. For the first time, a potential threat had been met without panic or hierarchy. Humanity did not claim credit, but many noticed Park. Doyan reviewed designs for long-term projects, terraforming support, medical research hubs, education exchanges. "These are defenses," he said, "against ignorance." Choi Myra returned briefly to the old council world. The chamber still stood, mostly empty. She walked through it alone. The seats felt smaller. The silence felt earned. Back on Earth, Admiral Kong prepared to retire fully. On his final day, he stood once more before the planet. "We were tested," he said to a small group. "Not by war, but by response." Lihana watched him leave. Command without ceremony. Humanity had learned something important. Strength was not proven by how loudly one spoke, but by how many voices were allowed to speak. Across the galaxy, new generations grew up with you.